Welcome to Cracking the Code. Again, my name is Ryan Skinner, and here with me today is Gerry Griffin. Gerry is our estate planning attorney who works with basically all my clients. Unless they come in with an estate plan, and usually when they come in, there's still some stuff to be updated. Otherwise, I tell people it's not something you need, it's something you must have. In this day and age, Gerry, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of your clients, Ryan, they come in, they haven't really thought about an estate plan since probably they were younger, maybe in their 20s and 30s if they have kids. And it's a lot different now. We have to really tighten up that estate plan with one that's really based on a trust as opposed to the wills we used to use years ago.
Yeah, it's a different ballgame. You know, back in the day when you would do planning, the advisors of the day or the retirement planners, their job would be, hey, we're going to manage money, and you're going to do, an average of 8% and blah, blah, blah. What they don't tell you is average of 8%, but there's ups and downs. And just because it averages 8% doesn't mean you'll get the 8%. And nobody would really talk about Social Security unless you could do a, file and suspend, or, all that stuff, the restricted application, all that stuff was the only thing that people gave a damn about. And then fast forward, the world changes. There's no longer, I tell people, wills are obsolete. If you come to me and tell my clients, say, oh, Ryan, I've got a will, or even better, a direct beneficiary on my IRA. A direct beneficiary tells me you've got a direct problem when you pass.
Yeah.
Folks, retirement planning now is different. For example, we sit with clients, and, me owning a practice that does nothing but income planning. What I do is I meet with people and say, all right, what do you need to live on? What do you have coming in? And what's the shortfall? How do we close that gap? And then as of the last 4 years, we're like every other firm. We used to just plan, if you need 10 grand, take out 12, pay the tax, you'll get 10 grand a month. Then we realized, whoa, there's tax efficient planning. And that changed the game, Gerry.
Yeah, I mean, that's as you've pointed out through the workshops, this will be the first generation going into retirement where they're going to pay more taxes in retirement than they did during their working years. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah, I get the pleasure of telling people, hey, you're going to be in a higher bracket in retirement. So, all that stuff, we were sold a bill of goods. You max out your 401k. So you're going to take it off now. You pay less tax on your income. It's going to grow up tax deferred. And you know what? When you take it out, you'll be in a lower bracket. This is the first generation, I think, that's going to be in a higher bracket. And every so often somebody says, no, that's not true. Tell me how, right?
Yeah. I mean, as you point out, the proposed high bracket is, 63% in the coming years?
So the one Congress came out with, the most recent one that I saw, was a 25, 63, and 88. Three-tier bracket.
88. Unbelievable. 88.
And I thought there was a scare tactic. I mean, I remember rolling my eyes, and the gentleman who was teaching a class said, do you think that's cute? And I said, yeah, they're not going to 88% taxes. Come on. And he said, what do you think the highest bracket ever was? I said, I don't know, 80, 70. Yeah. He said, 94, and I almost fell over. He said, after World War II, we had to make the money back. And then he tells me, in the 60s, the highest bracket hit 90 or 91 when Reagan was trying to avoid taxes with his movie star. But still, to me, there were chisels and stones back then. It was so far before me that I couldn't really relate and try to tie it into retirement income planning. What hit me was when he said, Ryan, for all three of those decades, including the 70s, where the highest bracket was 70%, for all three of those decades, Ryan, guess what? The lowest bracket was 26%. And I fell over almost, because that's what scares the hell out of me. Most of our clients aren't at the highest bracket.
Right.
But if you're starting at 26 instead of 10, you've got a problem.
Yeah, it's crazy, and a lot of people, as they're going into retirement, they don't think about those minimum required distributions and all the pitfalls and traps that the government has built in now to ensure that they're going to get more money back than they let you take over those years.
Yeah, you nailed it. They really do set up pitfalls for people, and the average American, I'll tell you, I've always considered myself a really good retirement specialist. And up until 4 years ago, we weren't talking about this. So very few firms do. And the firms that do know about it, they don't want to do it because our job is to help clients transition money from qualified money, such as IRAs, 401ks, things of that nature, over to tax efficient, which means either a LERP, which we can touch base on later, or a Roth IRA. And how do you get there? Well, you got to pay some taxes. So your job becomes convincing somebody to pay taxes, and then you're going to have less money on the books to get paid on. It sounds counterintuitive. In fact, when I first learned it, I remember telling the guys when I got back, we're going to be doing this. And they said, why would we convince people to do something they don't want to do for our income to go down? And the answer is simple. They'll never leave.
Right.
We build tax efficient plans. Those people are never leaving.
Yeah, and the workshops are well attended. Everyone needs to know, how these rules are going to affect them and these higher taxes going into retirement, to be able to plan out that 30-year retirement plan that you try to put together for them.
When you look at it statistically, if somebody's 60 years old, there's a 43 or 45%, I forget which one it was, percent chance that one of them lives till 95. Now, the other one might croak. And the one person living alone is even worse because obviously now you're filing single versus filing married. And as I've learned, when you file single, your tax bracket jumps real quick. And that's what happens when these people take an RMDs and that happens. Guess what? Uncle Sam wants to tax you on that Social Security. By the way, it was never meant to be taxed. When people say, Social Security won't be taxed with this or that. It was never taxed until we made it taxed. And then, of course, the IRMA penalty. You work, it's so hard to tell people, you work your whole life, you pay Medicare taxes. I pay it every week for me and my team. Then you retire, you're going to pay a little bit of a Medicare Part B. It's basically a charge when you retire. And oh, by the way, if you did what we told you and you saved, well, now you got to pay a penalty or a surcharge.
Yeah, it's crazy, and the amounts are not that high when that penalty kicks in. And people will either be taking the minimum required distributions, or in some cases, if they borrow against it and they don't repay it in a fast enough period of time, which is only a few months, again, it's income, and it's boom, one big hit. And how high can it go, Ryan, those IRMA penalties?
Well, it's funny. I saw one example, and I love this example because this isn't that uncommon. Before, if somebody came in with $1 million, it was very uncommon. Now it's pretty common. So it said somebody who was 60 they had their money in a 401k, husband and wife, both 60, at a 6% return, which isn't impressive. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great. At 75 years old, their RMDs, and RMD, folks, is a required minimum distribution. Basically, Uncle Sam says, hey, you can put that money in your 401k, your 403b, and we're going to let it grow. We're not going to tax you on it. But at some point, we want our tax, and you're going to pay. And at 75, if they didn't take that money for any other reason, their RMD would have been $97,000. And it goes up every year because, obviously, two things. The percentage you have to take out goes up every year because your life expectancy goes down. So Uncle Sam wants the taxes. And the portfolio if it grows. If you're growing at 6%, you're only taking out 3%. Guess what? Next year, you have to take out more and the pile's bigger. And that's where it hits. And when we looked at that example, if one of them lived till 95, the IRMA penalty would be $511,000 in penalty. That's not saying the opportunity cost. That's saying the penalty. You look at Social Security, and historically it's gone up every year. They give us that little boost. Some years it's 1%, some years it's 2%. A couple of years ago it was tremendous because the cost of living was up. But the IRMA penalty has consistently gone up at 6%. 6%. So they penalize you more than they give you for a boost, but nobody ever talks about that.
Nope.
Because it used to be the wealthy only, but now the wealthy are the average folks, because most people coming in, they're going to be over that limit. Now, some people have real estate, or some people have pensions, and the situation's a little unique. Especially now, we deal with a lot of the police officers and a lot of firefighters. They are more pension heavy. But I'll tell you, you still have to do the tax efficient planning, because if you don't, they're going to get croaked when they get older.
Yep, because the pensions are the income on that is taxable, correct, in retirement?
It counts fully as taxed. A lot of them will be state tax free, but that's 5%. I mean, the feds are really where they're whacking them. And then you throw an RMD on top of that, and you're over the limits. And then next thing you know, you're taking out, the example with the $1 million couple. He's 95 years old. They're taking out $200,000-300,000 in RMDs because they're forced to. They're not going to spend it at that age. If anything, it goes to some sort of nursing home care, some sort of facility. And it's like, you remember when you were in high school, chemistry, they had those different atoms. Now, I don't remember a lot of chemistry, but I remember this. You see the atoms bumping off each other. And one thing that hit me was, if you take your RMD, it automatically puts you in a higher tax bracket. It makes sense. You're taking taxable income. Then Social Security is taxed higher, if it's not already. Medicare is now going to get penalized, most likely. And then you lose a lot of your deductions, especially small business owners. Now, most folks are going to lose their deductions anyways by having a couple of bucks. I don't overly worry about that. But the widow's penalty, one dies, the other one sitting there now, they have to take the same RMD, but the bracket jumps 10-12%. That's insane. Talk about how hard is it to lose a loved one. Now you're trying to figure out tax brackets.
Yep.
Then the heirs penalty, and this is a big one. If I die at 95, or if you die at 95, our kids are at their best earning years. They're at the highest peak of their career, right? The late 50s, 60s. And if they inherit money then, nowadays, they don't have the luxury of stretching an IRA out like they used to. You get 10 years Take it all in 1 year, take it all over 10 years, but you're taking it. And then you take it, and next thing you know, you're at the highest bracket, and you're getting penalized for that. And if you're 65 when you inherit it, now you're getting IRMA penalties because you're at that income level. There's no other solution other than tax-efficient planning. And as I tell people, when I learned it, I was amazed because it sounds so sophomoric. 3 buckets: taxable, savings accounts, CDs, money markets, even investments you have outside. Tax deferred, okay, 401ks, IRAs, things like that, and tax advantaged. Now, again, we won't dive into the LERP right now, which is basically a life insurance retirement plan that can be used tax efficient income. It can be leveraged a number of ways, but the Roth is tax advantaged. So how do we get enough? Because if you get enough in the tax advantage bucket, you're tax free. Because every year Uncle Sam gives us that standard deduction. Hey, you get this hall pass. You've been a good citizen. You're going to get this year for a senior citizen or for a married couple, it's $30,000. And then if you're over 65, there's an extra boost. But if you get $30,000, it's a standard deduction. If you take $29,000 out of your IRA, it's tax free. So you don't want to move your whole IRA. I've had people come in and my advisor said to convert my whole IRA to a Roth. Well, why? Because some of it's tax free right off the bat. Do reverse engineering. Say, how much is tax free? The rest, yeah, you got to remove it. It's kind of like when we talked about the thing with David, right? I love this analogy. At first I thought it was so corny. It still is corny, but I like it. So when I went to Italy, so I went overseas once, my ex and I, we went to Italy and we went to Florence and saw the statue of David. And, you know, it's impressive. It's a statue, but it's a statue. But when they told me the backstory to it, it blew my socks off. I love history, so everybody was trying to work with this big stone. They had these 2 great artists, and they were chiseling away, and every time they made progress, it would fall apart, it would crumble. So they gave up. They walk away. It's the mid-1400s. 1502, Michelangelo wanders upon the stone, and he decides he's going to take a crack at it. And for 3 years, he does nothing but sleep next to the stone. He does nothing but chisel away at it, eats there, everything. You name it. And sure enough, at the end, there was David. The reason he named it David was because they used to call that stone, because it was so difficult, Goliath. Okay, so he named it David, like he overcame Goliath. And when the Pope at the time asked him, how'd you do it? He said, I removed everything that wasn't David. Now, that's a genius answer. To most of us, we'd say, well, I chiseled away, But, I mean, think about it. That's the thing. With clients, I tell them, we're going to find out what you need, what you're going to have come in, what you have to, what we can take out of your IRA is tax-free under the standard deduction. Then we got to remove everything else.
Right. Now, the limits on the Roth conversion and ages and how you approach that in terms of moving it?
There are no limits in age. I'm glad. It's kind of funny you asked that. Anybody watching this probably thinks that's a preset question, but it's something I looked into because I was curious for my own money when I started doing it. There's no limits. The thing is, if you move it under 59 and a half, you can't have the tax withheld because of the rules of accessing the money. So when I converted some of my money, I had to go to the savings account, write the check. I believe it's well worth it because by the time I'm there, I'll have doubled it twice. It'll be tax-free. And more importantly, when I'm gone, Dylan will get it because I'm never going to retire. This is who I am.
Right.
But I don't want Dylan to be left with a tax mess. And that's the thing I think is so important people realize is, in the end, whatever is Roth or LERP or anything tax efficient, advantageous, when you die, your loved ones don't get hit with a huge tax bill. Now, they could change your estate limits, but right now, unless you're an extraordinarily wealthy person, if you've got Roth, your kid's getting it tax-free. That is gold. And you take it out, it's tax-free. So if you double, triple the money, I tell people tax advantage is different than munis, because a muni might appear tax-free. It might be state tax-free, but then it's federal tax, or vice versa. It might be tax-free both. It might even be a muni bond fund, but you sell your capital gains. Even if you get one of the good munis that are both federal and state tax-free, the problem you run into is the interest on it still counts against your Social Security, so you get hit with the penalties. And that's the concern, is penalties on Social Security and Medicare. If you can work backwards from there, you got a solid plan.
Yep.
I think one of the most unique things I'm seeing nowadays, Gerry, is there were used to be a lot of do-it-yourselfers, and I think the last few years have gotten rid of that, which is nice because I just don't like do-it-yourselfers. I mean, it's very candid. Somebody comes in, I don't go to the doctor's office, tell them I can do their job. So that being said, I think the big misconception people have with estate planning, and I'm seeing it more and more, is, hey, Ryan, I got a 401k, but I have a direct beneficiary in the house. We have a direct beneficiary on that. And my answer is, okay, but what if your kid inherits it at a time that they shouldn't? If they're going through a divorce, a lawsuit, their child's trying to apply for college. If you have a trust, you've got a shell. If I'm understanding it right, it's basically a separate entity that can inherit it and can sit till it's an appropriate time.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the rules are going to be a little more less restrictive when it's going to flow through your living revocable trust to your children as the beneficiaries. They're going to have that opportunity to look at the child's situation before making the distribution. So that's probably going to work out to be a much more beneficial, again, than the direct beneficiary. And there's other problems, too, with the direct beneficiary. If that child's going through a divorce at that point in time, that money's available for a spouse to go after. Same with a creditor. When it flows through that living revocable trust, it's protected because these trusts can spendthrift protect for the second-tier beneficiaries, not the spouses who've created it, but their children, whoever the beneficiaries are. So no one can get at those funds as long as they remain in the trust. So it gives you that moment in time to review the beneficiary situation before you make a distribution to them. If they're in danger of anything, credit, divorce, anything like that, you just leave it in the trust until the coast is clear.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that's what you had me do with my trust for Dylan.
Yep.
I think it just makes sense. I also tell clients, if your kid's 24, 25, they might be a pretty bright kid, but if they inherit $2 million, $3 million worth of real estate, that's going to be a fire sale, and there's going to be a lot of sports cars, a lot of fun. Even a sensible kid's going to buy themselves something they want that maybe you weren't fully on board with. By having a trust, you can kind of stagger it. Hey, they get X amount at 25, 30, and now I'm seeing more and more clients understanding the value of it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a lot of money. And again, it's all because everything's relevant. The values are going up, but the taxes are increasing spectacularly over and above the money that's coming in. So what they're receiving now, look back 20 years, it really doesn't play out exactly the same way. But that's what these trusts will do. Having it flow through the trust is a much better situation. And again, it's something these folks were trying to educate them on, because Ryan will meet with these folks and put together that solid 30-year tax-efficient plan. Now the question becomes, how do we pass this on to the kids as safely as possible and as tax efficient as possible? So again, they're not inheriting those huge tax bills on those retirement accounts.
Yeah, and as it was put to me, an IRA is an IOU to the IRS.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people may not even be aware of the rules that changed a few years ago, which limit that. There's no way around. What is it? 10 years they have to take.
Secure Act of 2017 said, okay, now it's all going to be spent fully taxed in 10 years.
Wow, it's really ripped the heart out of the prior system, which basically would let you spread it over the life of the beneficiary.
Yeah, they gave you so much. They were very liberal with it, and yet, I mean, they were still getting the tax money. It's just now the government is, and if people think it's going to get better, I tell people all the time, take a good look. We have a crazy deficit. This country's getting flipped upside down. It's getting wonky, right? As a result, things are going to change. Taxes, I don't see how to actually go down. Now, I could be wrong, and in a way, I'd be glad because I'd like some more money in my pocket. But another way, I'd be frightened. If the taxes go down, where do we stand?
Yeah, absolutely. And look at, as you point out at our workshops, where the rest of the world stands on their tax rates. It's pretty eye-opening to look at those numbers.
It's sobering. I mean, when you look at, if you look around the world at industrialized countries, I'm not talking about somewhere where somebody's carrying water on their back, but if you look at a country like Greece is the lowest, it's 42%. They're a mess. Italy's at 43%. They're not doing so hot. The rest are at high 40s and 50s. And every so often someone says, well, they get health insurance. And if you know anybody overseas, they might get free health insurance. They go and buy their own because their free health insurance is not like our mass health. It's not quite as nice. So as a result, they're not sitting there just taking what they handed. They got to go buy their own anyways. And they're paying crazy taxes. So there's only one way around it. It's how do we avoid the taxes? You can't do all the conversion in 1 year because you get croaked with taxes. Then you're going to be penalized with IRMA as well as Social Security. You can't do it over 10 years because what we find is over 10 years, the legislation changes so much, you can't keep track of it. So I tell folks, the goal is 5 to 7 years. 8 on the high end, 4 on the low end. Start doing some planning. Make sure it's efficient. Some people say, well, what about while I'm still working? I'll wait till I retire. And my answer is, why? When you retire, you're still going to be taking money out of an IRA. When you take money out of that IRA, you're going to need income from it.
So if you meet with a young couple, say in their early 60s, with this tax efficient planning moving forward, is there some point in time you can have them passing on their assets tax free and literally?
The goal, I mean, here's the goal. The goal is by the time the RMDs come around, that they're taking tax-free money, basically, because their RMDs are under the standard deduction. Now, the rest will be Roth IRA money and LERPs, and it'll be all tax efficient for them, and they can take tax-free now, they can die, leave it tax-free. The money that remains in the IRAs, the money that we're taking the RMDs that are under the standard deduction, when they die, the kids get taxed on that. But it's just not tax efficient to have them convert it now for the kids' sake. But the rest of it, anything over the standard deduction. So if I have $500,000, the standard deduction is $18,000, I'm good. If I have $1 million and it's $36,000, these days I'm not so good. As a result, you don't want to be at that limit. And we also have to factor out how much it grows every year. So where will it be? So with the standard deduction. So it varies. That's why we have the software. I'll tell you, I take credit for being pretty good with numbers. Without that software, I'd be out. As John said it best to me, Ryan, you'd be better off with a Powerball ticket.
No, it's very detailed, complicated stuff. It's a minefield as you're approaching retirement to prepare for it and adequately prepare to work your way through that minefield so that you don't get crippled with one of these penalties or a series of them.
Once you get, I call it the merry-go-round of hell. Once you get on that merry-go-round of hell, where they're taxing you and they're penalizing this and there's a surcharge, very rarely will you find somebody who's able to get off, because every year you're forced to take a certain amount to stay on that merry-go-round, and the amount you would take to get off is going to push you to a higher level. So you're basically just the noose is around your neck and you're just hanging there. You got to be proactive.
Yeah, you're dipping into it. As you point out, it's one of the good analogies you always use is stock market math. I mean, in terms of trying to play catch up.
Yeah, there is. I always tell people, if you get before 65, by 70, 72, should be efficient. No problem. If you're in your mid-60s or late 60s, by 75, you should still be tax efficient. If you're in your early 70s or at 70, my buddy Dom that came in today, I'm not going to get you tax-free by 75. But, man, if we can get 30% of it over or 25 or 40, hell, why not? Let's just do it right.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole new world that we're facing is this tax-efficient planning. Again, the Social Security planning, a lot of the benefits have been kind of taken away already from us, so we have to look elsewhere, and that's what it is today. It's the tax-efficient planning, going into retirement and, making sure you update that estate plan. You have to be as prepared and as proactive as possible, and a lot of folks, it takes them a while to get to that point.
Yeah, pain's a great motivator. I mean, I always say to people, you know what, most of us don't do things till it gets painful enough and uncomfortable enough that we get stressed and we do them. Great example is last night. So we do, for our existing clients, we have referral events. So we have events where they can bring a friend or family member. That way that person can meet us in a comfortable environment. They don't have to come in for a first appointment without meeting us. It's less awkward. Plus, the client that brings them, we educate them on a new topic. We make it worth their while to come into. We want to keep them current. And we do those anyways for clients to continue in ed. But this is next level. Last night, we spoke about just nothing but a roadmap to Roth. We showed people the path to getting to that and to LERP, to getting tax-free and tax-efficient planning. And the clients that were in the room, 4 of them were clients that it was not negotiables. I said to them, I've got enough of a relationship with them that I can say, these are musts, okay? It's kind of like if you jump out of a plane, you have a parachute, pull the plug. Otherwise, you're not going to do so well. There's certain people that they're right in the right zone, the right age, they have the right amount of money. It's a no-brainer for them. And 4 of them were there last night. I was so excited to be able to say it to them because I know we can get them there. Like, I love being in the system. When I learned what the wealthy I learned how, growing up, my mom was a housekeeper, as you know, and I've had some success, so I learned how to make money. We've had practices, we've grown, but we didn't come from generational wealth, And when I learned what the people from generational wealth do, I was blown away. And once you ring the bell, you can't unring it. First, we came back, we did with all of our clients that we knew when we learned it, and then we started going out and saying to new clients and future clients, hey, this is the way of the world. Tax-efficient planning is a must. It's like oxygen in retirement planning. Otherwise, you're going to be a victim. Anybody who doesn't do tax planning, they're going to be a victim, just like the folks overseas in some of these countries where the tax rates and the inflation are beating the hell out of them. Gerry, I'm going to tell you, this, in my opinion, is the cornerstone of building retirement plans from here.
Absolutely. Going forward, it has to be based on where we stand in the world. And again, anyone who's, whistling past the graveyard thinking that rates are going to stay the same or go down, just look around, as you point out. There's just our budget, and how much of it's already, as you point out, to entitlement programs.
Yeah, down in just to run to Washington, D.C. with the people that work there and their health care puts us in a deficit right there. The fact is that we've got to start doing outside. And I had to start doing outside planning. When I learned this, I've had to bring in guys because I do secure income planning. I use tools with guarantees. I play it safe because I'm conservative. But I knew I needed guys to handle things in case people need money for long-term growth. We need the accountants because we have to make sure the taxes are done right and tax efficient planning. Need you. I mean, we've been together for years, but the truth is, it's a team approach, and we're lucky to have a good team around us. We really are. It took years to build. A lot of people go to family offices when they have money, where they pay $3,000 a month, and they have all these services. What I realized is because we built it piecemeal, we never got to charge that $3,000 a month. But it's the same thing. We have it so that every service is under one roof.
Yep. No, all your clients are very well taken care of. You're looking around the corners for them, so they don't have to do it themselves, and they're very appreciative. Again, you can see just by the attendance at our workshops.
Yeah, we're very blessed. There's that saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. We've been blessed, and we bless our clients. We do as much as we can. In fact, next month we have the end of the year gratitude dinner coming up, the big party at the end of the year. Folks, Gerry, this was great today, first of all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And folks, this is what it's all about. You're near retirement or retired. It's time to take a really good hard look at the facts. Not just market volatility and nursing home care, which are the two biggest threats to retirement, or were, but now throw tax into it. That's the keystone right there. That is the one that's going to cripple more people than anything else. Stay safe. God bless. That's how we crack the code.
Thank you.